The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome into the show. I got to tell you, it's hard to think of a day where we've had better vibes than right now for the Pod at the Palace. I mean, maybe after beating St. John's to get to the Sweet 16, that would probably qualify. Outside of that, I mean, this is up there, good stuff on Thursday as we had just an absolute flood of big time names hit the portal, and that sucker's not closed yet. We still got until Tuesday. We got some solid intel on a few targets. Finally got some retention news as we learned that DJ Wagner, Billy Richmond, and Trevin Brazil are all going to be running it back next season with the Razorbacks, and Carter Knox is going to be testing the NBA draft waters, maintaining the college eligibility. The likelihood there is that he is also going to be back in Fayetteville next season. So, wow, man, we learned a lot real quick. A lot of questions answered and good vibes all around, right? I mean, how could you be upset about any of this right now? Just in case you aren't in a great mood this morning, we're going to take the next 1 minute and 17 seconds to put you in one before we dive into where things stand with this roster and who to keep an eye on after the portal exploded on Thursday. Let's look at the hype video for this roster that John Calipari put out on his personal Twitter, one of two messages that he had for Razorback fans yesterday.
19,000 plus on their feet.
Love it if the season just started tomorrow. Turn me up, man. Golly. Does it make you just want to go get some shots up, right? Run some sprints, run through a brick wall, go skinny dipping in frozen waters. I don't know. I'm fired up, man. That's awesome. That is awesome. That was a sick hype video. We needed that. You guys earned it. I hope it got you going. Honestly, I'm just thankful that I could see it. Thanks to our sponsors over at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. You guys like that transition over there? Hey, if you're tired of misplacing those reading glasses or missing the big plays during the games or watching the hype videos or seeing the notifications when the Pod at the Palace goes live for all this news, go check out the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. They can help you out. Your vision's essential to your quality of life, and your professional eye care is a must for you and your family. They've got it all over there. They're award-winning eye doctors and board-certified, professionally active physicians. They've got it all figured out. They've got all the qualifications. They meet the standards, and they also take care of you with their friendliness, their bedside manner. They make you feel like you're right at home. Couple things that they got going on. They offer that custom cataract surgery and the custom refractive lens exchange surgery inside their clinic in Fayetteville. The Eye Center offers free screenings for those of you who would be interested in having that RLE. That's kind of the sub there for LASIK, right? If you want to get rid of those glasses or contacts, you're dealing with that near vision, you're over 40, you don't qualify for LASIK, this is an option for you. If you want to get checked out, give them a call, 479-442-2020, or check out the website, www.eyecenternwa.com for more info. We certainly appreciate them for all of the help, the support, making this possible throughout the course of portal season here, which is just buzzing. I mean, absolutely buzzing, right? So let's see. Okay, where do we start? Before we get into the craziness that was this day in the transfer portal, holy name drops, man. Just a lot going on. I'm anxious to see what Friday brings, because Thursday was, you want to talk about heavy hitters. Like, this is the most big name drop into the portal of maybe since like the first couple days. I mean, this is a big one. But let's take a look at the roster first. Now that we've got some clarity, let's pull it up. Let's talk about it. Let's make a little bit of sense of it before we start talking about what they need to add, what they need to bring in, how they need to finish this thing. Let's draw up some conclusions here based on that. So you see the returners, DJ Wagner, Billy Richmond, Trevin Brazil, Carter Knox. We have him on this list, but we got it marked there, testing the waters. We'll see, but it feels pretty darn solid that you're going to wind up getting him back. I think he's really looking for a for sure first-round lock, first-round guarantee. He probably ain't getting it, honestly, in this year's draft. And there's going to be some good feedback for him to get, some things that he's going to be able to work on next season. This is good for him. Like Cal said, he supports him. But they were very particular about how it was announced. Carter was, and the team was, right? Going through the draft process, maintaining the college eligibility, much different vibes than you got with Boogie or Adu there. But if you wind up returning him, you can see it right there. Great production coming back, right? This is the type of stuff you see 47.6% of minutes returning. So you think about that and it's like, oh, it's about half of their returning minutes. What's the big deal? That's a lot, folks. It is. It's a lot. It's the kind of stuff you see from Final Four teams. And there are SEC teams out there now that are losing 90% or more of their minutes played. Look at Texas A&M. Look at Baylor. Baylor lost every single player off of that roster. They're rebuilding the whole team. Kansas is in the same situation. Arkansas is so much better off than a lot of these teams out there. It's ridiculous. You're at 11 scholarships right now, 4 returners. I put incoming, and I didn't mean to put Jaden Carletwa over on the incoming side of this. He should be on returning. But the rest of these guys are incoming, 6 incoming players. They get you at 11 scholarships, right? But are all of them rotation guys? So first of all, 11 scholarships, that means you have 4 remaining. Okay, and because that's going up from 13 to 15 for this next season. That's change. In my estimation, only 8 of these guys project in next season's rotation at the moment. Carletwa, we know, is he was kind of the next man up this past year. But Arkansas is trying to get a little bit deeper, and you see guys like Sealy and Rattel in there. Don't necessarily project into next year's rotation, but just massive upgrades over last year's back end. Arkansas is already deeper than it was, so that's a good thing. And then you look at the current needs right there. An impact piece, front court depth, perimeter shooting. We've talked about this, but I think that's what we're looking at here in terms of where Arkansas can go ahead and improve this roster a little bit, because they're close, man. A lot of these way too early's, they've got them in the top 10, whatever, and that's good, right? I mean, that's where you want to be, but we, solidify that just a piece or two away from being in a really, really good spot, I think, personally, for these guys. So let's move on to our vibe check, presented by our friends over at Basis Health, right? And you guys know the drill. Sometimes making a doctor's appointment, getting out there, making the commute, it's difficult. It's hard. Why not have them come to you? And that's exactly what you can do with Basis Health. They're changing the way that healthcare is delivered by providing that mobile medical visit at the comfort of your home. A doctor will come to you, straight to you, for a number of things: urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and more. Basis Health, they're here for you when you need them the most. You can learn more at basishealth.org. So our vibe check here, what are we looking at in terms of Arkansas wrapping things up with this roster? How can they fill these remaining needs here? Because I think that we're looking at 2 to 3 more spots. And there's some smoke that Arkansas could add, a pair of these big names. Let's pull up another graphic here. They could add a pair of these big names and be done. I'm not saying that's an impossibility to get a couple more studs, right? If they had it their way, maybe that's exactly how this would end here. I also think that it's the most unlikely scenario to take place unless Carter Knox stays in the draft. As you can see from the graphic here, the way I'm looking at it, if Carter Knox returns, and it's likely that he will, the most likely scenario here, in my opinion, is 1 more impact addition and then 1 to 2 depth pieces to round out this roster. If Carter were to stay in the draft, which again, just to be clear, it's likely that he won't, in my opinion. Maybe that's where you get into that territory where you can make 2 impact additions. And that could be based on the NIL money that you would have at your disposal. Been a lot of talk about that, hasn't there? Finances. I think most people have seen Matt Norlander over at CBS Sports, his recent story that came out just about NIL, the heavy hitters, the big spenders throughout the course of the country. And, there's about 10 programs that he has who are 10 million plus in payroll, NIL. Arkansas was on that list, but understand when he has Arkansas listed there that they're projected and expected to be at or over that number. They aren't there yet. Okay. As I understand it, Arkansas is right in that $8 to $9 million range in NIL with Knox in the fold. And 10 million isn't the cap. As I understand it, there's room to get anywhere between 10 to 12 million when all is said and done, pending the right types of pieces, right? That they could extend that budget a little bit. So when you look at it, you got the flexibility to add another luxury item to the roster and then fill in with some of those bells and whistles, right? Some of those specialty skills. We talked about a sniper, sharpshooter. We talked about shot blocking, whatever. As for adding 2 big fish, based on some of the numbers I'm receiving on some of the top guys in the portal, that would cost you anywhere between 4 to 6 million to get 2. And if we're talking about guys like that, it might be a little bit too rich for Arkansas's blood. I mean, it's Tyson's money. He could stretch it out if he wants to. But ideally for them, they wouldn't go quite that far. So, just putting it into a little bit of perspective there. Because some of these guys right now who are in the position of, I'm in the draft, but then I'm probably going to wind up coming back to school or whatever. Teams are going to be bidding late because they missed on other guys or whatever. I'm going to get a ton of money. Maybe you do, but there's only going to be a finite amount of schools who are going to be able to pay that, and very, very few who are going to be able to pay it to multiple guys in the same situation. In my opinion, at least. That's my gauge on the situation here. But most importantly, who are we keeping an eye on now? Like, who would qualify? Who's in the mix? All these new names that you've been teasing here. Well, let's talk about it. And it's just a perfect segue into our heavy hitter segment presented by our friends over at HD Roofing and Construction. We know those storms can hit unexpectedly, and when they do, make sure to contact HD Roofing for your peace of mind with a free inspection. They'll come out there and take care of you, assess the damage, see exactly what it is that you need. And when you choose HD, you can rely on professionalism, top quality materials, and expert installation for all of your roofing needs. Learn more at hdarkansas.com today. Heavy hitters, there's plenty of them. What a day. It pays off to be patient, doesn't it? Because hell, we're even looking at it right now. As bad as Arkansas needed some big men, and there's a guy or two there in today where we're like, wow, man, he would have been a great fit. But Arkansas kind of filled up there. Dang. You know what I mean? So despite a bunch of big names entering, though, and we're going to get to them in a minute, I promise, I still get the sense here. So we're talking about the pecking order. We're talking about targets, right? I still get the sense here that Jamir Watkins is at the top of the board for Arkansas. Okay. With that being said, caveats there. He also seems to be maybe the most committed of the bunch to seeing out the draft process. Even though everything I looked at, there are mocks that he's not listed in, and others he's in that 45 to 60 range, so late second round. No guarantees there. What does that mean? Like, probably that you'll have to really pay up to get him to come back to school, for one, or that he'll eventually figure it out through the feedback and everything that his, where his draft slot is, and maybe that price tag could drop a little bit. Because he was a second round grade this time a year ago. It hasn't changed that much, and he had a better season. Would it really change that much in a year? No, but is that second round grade still going to be there? Yes. Could you make more money than playing college basketball next season? Yes, I think that he could. So I've heard in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 million for Watkins, which honestly, that's a wide range, right? Like, which end of the spectrum could you wind up getting him on? Because that makes a huge difference in terms of everything else that you could be able to do in terms of filling other needs, right? So that factors into it. If you're in a bidding war, that could drive the cost up, and then we're talking about Arkansas's ability to do that, or like willingness to offer that kind of money to a player. For a frame of reference, I've heard, Arkansas was around that 2.5 million range with the offer for Nate Ament. So why would you not offer that to someone who will be just a superior one-year college player here? I think it makes a lot of sense. And that's one that I have my eye very, very much on here as we move forward. Now for the big names who entered the portal on Thursday, it was nuts. Like we said, let's start quick with the ones that I don't expect Arkansas to have a ton of traction with. Dane Danger at Memphis, for example, who may or may not even actually enter, because it was reported that he was going. Then he tweeted out, I think, and said, nah, no decisions have been made yet. Okay. He also may or may not even have eligibility left. He might have to get some kind of hardship for that. So we'll see. Would have been a name to get super excited for, though, 72 hours ago. But with Ewan and Pringle on board, I think any extra big man addition, in my opinion, is going to be more of the happy hour variety as opposed to the top shelf liquor. that's available out there. Like you went and got an SEC starter and arguably the best offensive big available. You know, you're probably looking for a specific skill set, something a little bit more on the periphery. Dane Danger is going to go start for somebody. He's come a long way, honestly, since he was at Illinois. Trimmed down, really refined his skill set, became so much more versatile. He had a hell of a season. If he comes back to college, he's gonna make somebody very happy for sure. I just don't think it's gonna be Arkansas. Andre Stojakovic, Baby Peja, big time scoring wing who somehow is 2 years into his career without being able to shoot from three, despite the bloodline there. That's absurd to me. Not feeling Arkansas here. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. We'll circle back if that changes. He might stay out west. We'll see. He was at Stanford last year. Arkansas saw him out at in the Bahamas, and he was at Cal this season. Put up great numbers from a scoring standpoint. Just haven't heard much there. We'll circle back if anything changes, but he's not really on my my radar right now. Now the names of note here who are. Okay. Now this surprises me after DJ Wagner announced his return. And no, I don't know how they would make it work. I don't. But I have every reason to believe that Arkansas is pursuing All-American guard PJ Haggerty out of Memphis, who entered the portal on Thursday. Absolute bucket. Not a volume three-point shooter, but just such a gifted scorer and playmaker. Over 20 points per game the last couple seasons. He's electric, man. One of the top guards available, easily. Probably the top guard available at this point, honestly. I'd put him above Ian Jackson in there. Have heard rumblings that Arkansas might be back channeling for him, man, in early March. So it's been a while, and then nothing happened. Well, he finally enters the portal on Thursday. Shortly after, heard from a connection of mine who has been pretty spot on with some intel. Tipped me on Jackson Robinson when everybody was saying that Arkansas had moved on. Tipped me on Jamir Watkins not being a take when he visited with Caleb Battle, and everybody thought it was a package deal. Was out in front of Anthony Black, ultimately becoming a Razorback when so many people hadn't predicted Gonzaga. So solid here. He's close friends with a prominent Memphis booster who said that Haggerty was in the 1.6-ish range with NIL this season at Memphis, but that told him he's pissed off because Arkansas is already involved with Haggerty. They don't like Calipari too much over there after that departure in 2009, but he still has a ton of connections over there. And from the sounds of from someone I trust quite a bit, Arkansas has already been involved. So that's very interesting to me. Would be a grand slam addition, whether you have a logjam there or other pieces in place at the positions he plays, which would be, probably the 2, the 1. I mean, he's as good as it gets in college basketball, right? So what would that mean? Small ball, more 4-guard lineups, and that's okay too. But it would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. So Haggerty's going to be heavily pursued, y'all. Could return to Memphis. Like they're actively going to engage to try to get him back. He's exploring the draft. There are going to be some really good programs out there, probably also within the SEC, who are going to be trying to get this guy. Expect Arkansas to be in that mix here as well. Man, wouldn't that be fun? Goodness gracious, that'd be a big pickup. That'd be a fun live reaction to do for sure. Another one that would be fun, Chad Baker Mazzara, which, I mean, we spent the first half hour of Inside Arkansas Live on Thursday talking about CBM. Yeah, that's right. The Auburn guard that everyone loves to hate. Polarizing but talented, frustrating yet electric. Well, I think Watkins and Haggerty might be slotted ahead, and it's just my gauge of it in the pecking order here of who Arkansas might want. CBM, in my opinion, would be the best fit by way of strengthening a weakness, which is that he's the best 3-point shooter of the bunch. I just think it's super important for Arkansas to be able to identify here. Is Arkansas interested? They involved? Well, based on what I've gathered, it's been known and understood that if Chad Baker Mazzara hit the portal, that he would be gaining interest from John Calipari in Arkansas. Take that as you will, right? As I understand it, though, there's some obstacles in place here. And one, you got to determine whether or not this is the type of player that you want. Very, very gifted, very talented, plays hard as hell, great experience, was on a Final Four team this year. So a lot of positive traits there. Knucklehead, though, right? gets the technical fouls, got ejected in the NCAA tournament game, elbowed the kid in the head from Alabama, got some of that to him, trash talker, all that. All indications I have is he's a really good teammate. Just might not be everyone's favorite when you're playing against him, right? So is that something you want to deal with? Is the risk, outweighed by the reward? All those things. But outside of that, as far as I can tell, part of his NIL for next year, he'd already kind of signed an agreement to return to Auburn, and a portion of that's already been paid out to him. And so based on his contract language there, he would have to pay that back if he left. So initially when he hit the portal, we were hearing about how he had like this hefty buyout and everything. I think this is what's being referred to. It's like that money that's already been paid out to him would have to go back to Auburn. So that's something to consider there. I heard that he was in the maybe the 1 to 1.5 range at Auburn, which initially I thought about it and I was like, oh man, that's a little bit low compared to where I thought he would be. But actually thinking about where he was coming into the year, that's probably about right. And maybe his next stop, he would come a little bit cheaper than guys like Watkins and PJ Haggerty, who might be upwards of $3 million or more, frankly. CBM, maybe closer to 2, right? So keep an eye on that. Academics, probably also something to watch. And I don't know that from like his grades are terrible situation. I don't know if that's the case, but is going to be going into his 5th school, since he's been in college. And only one of those he's been for longer than a year. Like he's been at Auburn for 2 years. Everywhere else was just a 1-year stop. I think he was at Duquesne, and then San Diego State, and then in junior college, and then 2 years at Auburn. And then now he's going to be going to wherever else, maybe Arkansas, right? So the question there becomes, from an eligibility standpoint, of do you have enough progress towards degree, like with all that moving around? Where are you in terms of being on track to graduate? Because that would change things if he was a grad transfer. So maybe need a little bit more clarity on that. A return to Auburn, I don't believe is completely off the table, but one to keep an eye on, and one that we've already heard some connections to Arkansas in terms of being involved. So if Arkansas wound up getting 1 out of those 3 guys, if they got 2 out of 3, man, that's a maybe a pipe dream. But hey, we can dream big. I've been the one up here saying, hey, it ain't my money. If you've got the resources and this is the last year that you can really flex it, why limit yourself? Why leave yourself with a hole? Why leave any doubt on paper that you're a contender? So, hey, by all means, go out and get all these guys for all I care, right? But realistically speaking, if you get one of them between Jamir Watkins and PJ Haggerty and Chadwick or Mazzara, goodness gracious, man. Like, especially with Knox coming back, that's a squad. That's a really good team, before even talking about, maybe they go add a 3-point specialist, or maybe they'll get a shot blocker or whatever. Good grief. I mean, that would be fun. Another name for the periphery, BJ Freeman. Just a name to know. Hey, I don't know that Arkansas is all in on him, but here's what I will say. The reason I'm skeptical here is because I know that he got dismissed from Arizona State for conduct detrimental to the team. And I don't think it was off-court stuff. I think it was on-court stuff. Maybe butted heads with coaches over there. I think he get ejected from a game or something. At any rate, Arizona State's been a shit show at times under Bobby Hurley. That seems like it was a bad experience for all, but he was their leading scorer. And they let him go in February. So, and listen, I'm not absolving Freeman from any wrongdoing here. I'm sure he was being a knucklehead, and maybe it was just it could be just a bad mix of personalities, clashing, whatever. I'm sure that there's blame to be spread in a situation like this. But I'll just point out that this is not an uncommon theme at Arizona State. Like, they barely retain any of their roster year over year, and it's not the first time we've heard about something like this over there. So, I would be interested to get a little bit more of the story. I'm probably going to reach out to some folks over at Arizona State to see exactly what went on over there. But the reason this is a name to know is because when he hit the portal last season out of Milwaukee, John Calipari was all over him when he was still at Kentucky, to the point where it seemed like he might be Kentucky bound. And honestly, I was really surprised that there wasn't much traction on that front once he came over to Arkansas with Freeman. I don't know that ever really went anywhere. And then he wound up going to Arizona State, but he was one of the first guys. I remember doing those Pod at the Palaces with Scotty right when Cal came over, and it was all about, okay, all the work we did with Muss, we can erase that board, but who on Kentucky's roster could Cal bring with him? Who from this freshman class will he bring with him? And then who was he targeting in the portal while he was at Kentucky? And this guy was at the top of that list. So there's that. Big wing at 6'6", over 200 pounds. Has shot at over 35% from three the past 2 seasons with good volume, so he would help from that standpoint. And, he averaged 13.7 points and 4 boards at Arizona State this year. So in the Big 12, that's pretty good. Last season, he averaged 21.1 points, 6.6 rebounds, 3.1 assists per game at Milwaukee. He was the Horizon League Player of the Year. So a really, really talented dude. If he passes the background check there, that would probably be a pretty damn solid consolation prize if you weren't able to get one of these other guys or whatever. So at least wanted to have that name out there. And there was one more who hit the portal that I wanted to look up real quick. Let me see if I can find him. It was Nate Johnson. And I think he was at Akron. Yeah, guard out of Akron. Let's see what we got here. Okay, well, yeah, maybe not. The one thing I didn't know about him, he hit the portal, and I know some people were saying he was a pretty darn good player. Thick guard, 6'3", 205 pounds, average 14 points, 4.9 rebounds, 3.4 assists per game. Not much by way of shooting, so I'm out on my interest here. Career 33% three-point shooter. He was 30% this last year on about a make per game. Got to the free throw on 142 times, which is pretty darn good, but there ain't no use in adding anybody to the backcourt if they're not an All-American like Haggerty or somebody that can really stroke it from three like Chad Baker-Mazara can. So I don't think any need to really talk about him too much, but that was another name that I had written down that I hadn't taken any notes on just yet. Did I miss anybody else? I don't think so. I can't wait to see who enters the portal over the course of the weekend here. I feel like the board is expanded by 3 or 4 names here, which is cool. We'll start digging a little bit deeper into, obviously, as more comes from this trio of guys that we just talked about, we'll be all over it, but we'll start digging a little bit deeper into guys who kind of fit the mold for the potential depth spots that they're looking at and everything there. So good stuff. We finally have some clarity. Outside of Knox, you know exactly what everybody else in terms of staying or going is doing. I think you're 90% or better that Knox is going to be back, by the way. Got yourself a couple big men, starting to figure out who some of the targets are. We might not be too far removed from having this roster wrapped up after all, huh? And we were pulling our hair out earlier in the week, just waiting for him to do something, begging, pleading, Cal, please do something. Look at him. He heard us. Everything he said in that address, that video that he did last week. You want retention? You got it. And a week later, there it is, right? Still going to bring in my freshmen, my young people. Well, we already knew that. And there they were in that hype video. And in transfers, we're looking for the right fit. We're gonna get those guys, and then you got a couple of big men. So then I listened to his words today to see what he has to say, and really likes where this team is headed. They're not quite done yet, so be on the lookout for these final editions here. Can't wait to cover it and share the stories with you guys. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. As always, make sure you get subscribed to the YouTube channel Inside Arkansas. Find us where you find your podcasts for the Pod at the Palace. Those numbers have been going up quite a bit. Hit us up on the audio version as well. Sometimes you don't need to be looking at your phone while you're driving to work. Just listen to it. You can do that too. Apple, Spotify, wherever you find that. We certainly appreciate everybody's support. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Also, later today, we'll be out at Alumni Hall, 3417 North College Avenue in Fayetteville. I'll be there. John will be there. Andrew will be there before the baseball doubleheader. Come out and see us. Come out and hang out with us. And if you're in there and you want to buy some stuff, go up to the desk. Hogs buy 20, you'll get 20% off your first order. How about that? Get yourself some Razorback gear. Celebrate what's a good time for Arkansas athletics, particularly this basketball program that I cover, because it's buzzing. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you next time. Appreciate everybody.